60 Minutes Rewind.
It happened yesterday in New York and can only be described as a happening. It is The Gates, the latest vision of the artist Christo and his wife Jeanne-Claude, finally come to fruition. A mere quarter century in the making. You'll meet the Christos in a minute. First, that work of art. It's on a titanic scale. Central Park, New York's own little patch of the natural world, has been relieved of its winter drabness with, well, take a look. It's a spectacle that will disappear in just 14 days. The canvas is one of the most revered pieces of real estate in the country. 800 acres of urban oasis. Today, threaded with 7,500 gates, each suspending a free-flowing, shimmering, saffron-colored flag. This new New York landscape is one thing. The people who made it happen are really something else.
Christo and I.
Meet the Christos. The artists like their art larger than life. Do not adjust your set. That is her hair. Wherever they roam, this one-couple art movement causes a buzz. Part Barnum and Bailey, part Michelangelo and Leonardo. They're full of hype, and they deliver on it.
I have unstoppable urge to do this project. They're absolutely irrational, irresponsible, with no any justification. This project has happened only because the artists like to have them.
Look and sound a bit smug? You bet. Together, they've proven themselves on 4 continents by turning the familiar into the spectacular. You may well ask, what is the point of these gates? Well, there is no point. No symbolism, no moral or intellectual statements, just something beautiful to look at.
It's only the gates, a work of art of joy and beauty. We do not build messages, we do not build symbols. It's only a work of art, nothing else.
The Christos are an obsessive, two-headed force of nature. Born on the same day 69 years ago, they speak mainly with one voice, hers. But you have a habit of completing his sentences.
Yes, because when we arrived in the United States, he didn't speak a word of English.
I never learned English in school.
And now, as you say it now, I do let him talk, but I sometimes finish the sentence.
I've also heard the phrase good cop, bad cop.
Yes.
You're the bad cop?
I'm the bad cop.
Not at all.
No. The word comes from us. When we arrived in the United States, we decided we will play good cop, bad cop. Christo is the pure angel, the dreamer, the artist. Jeanne-Claude is the art dealer, the administrator, the organizer.
The money lady.
Yes. And
in other words, she who must be obeyed. So Christo became Christo and Jeanne-Claude a decade ago, much to the amusement of the art world. Michael Kimmelman is chief art critic of the New York Times. Christo ceased to be Christo and became Christo and Jeanne-Claude.
I think the basic issue there is that his projects are the whole enterprise.
That's wonderful.
And therefore, if she is involved in much of that, then I think he quite rightly sees her as a genuine collaborator.
But there's also the very real possibility that none of this would happen without her.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she is essential to it. At this point, they're inseparable, and their act, of course, while occasionally a little overbearing, is part of his whole aura.
They've been polishing their act and their aura since they first met in Paris almost 50 years ago. She was a daughter of privilege. He was an artist, a refugee who had fled Stalinist Bulgaria.
My father was in prison, accused to be the enemy of the people.
In the West, Christo was determined to create a new kind of art, owned by no one, influenced by nothing but his own vision.
All our project is about freedom. Nobody can buy this project. Nobody can own this project. Nobody can charge tickets for this project. They're there for a few days and they're gone.
And so their work is ephemeral, fleeting, like the 3,000 giant umbrellas they installed simultaneously outside Los Angeles and Tokyo. Christo called it a gentle disturbance. After 2 weeks, it was only a memory. In 1983, Christo and Jeanne-Claude went south Target, Miami's Biscayne Bay. Mission, dress 11 islands in pink. It was either appealing or appalling. For sure, it was Florida.
A woman came to me, and she looked very furious, and she said, I saw it on television. It's very ugly. It looks like a giant spill of Pepto-Bismol. Not even an hour later, an elderly gentleman came and said, bless you. I have never seen anything as beautiful in my entire life. It looks like a giant spill of Pepto-Bismol.
Whether you're one of the pro-Christos or the anti-Christos, they always have the last laugh. Like when they occupied Paris and turned this into this. Wrapping the Pont Neuf, the city's oldest bridge, in silky golden fabric. It was described as gilded magic, but the magic followed a decade-long assault on Paris's bureaucratic barricades.
We had a running battle against our opponent, Mr. Jacques Chirac, for 10 years. 10 years.
Monsieur Chirac, then the mayor of Paris, now the president of France, finally surrendered and said, okay, go wrap the bridge. For the Christos, battling bureaucracy is not only part of the work, it's part of the fun, and they've raised it to an art form. You choose projects where you know there is going to be not just minor resistance, but huge resistance, resistance that lasts for decades, and you seem to relish it.
No, but there is no other way. We don't relish the resistance.
We're not masochists.
It's unavoidable.
The Christos always wind up smack in that place where art and politics collide. Here in the German parliament, they fought 6 successive presidents for permission to do a modest project. Wrap this. The Reichstag in Berlin, a bittersweet symbol of a united Germany.
It seemed to be not just a present to the new Germany, but a kind of chrysalis, that out of this unwrapping would come this new idea of a Germany.
With 90 professional climbers and 1,000,000 square feet of silver fabric, they banished the ghosts of Germany's past. A building once sinister became suddenly inviting. It was classic Christo, overcoming the cynics through iron will and relentless optimism. People sort of walked away from it smiling. It radiated something very positive.
And it changes something you've maybe looked at every day of your life, and suddenly you see it fresh. That's what really art is about.
The story will continue after this.
With all their success, the Christos remained obsessed by one failure. A quarter-century ago, New York City rejected their proposal to put those gates in Central Park. They were told the park, this bucolic retreat, will never be messed with.
Then a miracle happened in our life. A friend was elected mayor of New York City, Michael Bloomberg.
Christo and Jeanne-Claude have been trying to do this for 25 years.
26, but who's counting?
Mayor Bloomberg approved the project in a New York minute, depriving the Christos of the pleasure of arguing their case. He says that fighting the bureaucracy of cities has a poetic dimension.
Oh, I think he was disappointed. He thought there'd be a big battle, and we said we'd love to have you. Let's do it.
The Christos took yes for an answer. He dusted off his old drawings of the gates and prepared new ones in the solitude of his Soho studio.
I like to be alone. The moment where I leave the studio, I'm surrounded with engineers, people discussing, and I like to be alone.
But in a gallery below the studio, they don't want to be alone. Here's where they welcome rich collectors who buy and buy and buy his drawings. The drawings are the Christos' lifeblood. It's how they finance their projects.
I do not make drawings once the project is realized.
The largest drawings can go for $500,000. They also sell scores of smaller ones, bringing in millions.
We are not different from all the other artists. They create art, it is sold, the artist gets the money. With the money, the artists purchase whatever they please. We do exactly the same. Only what pleases us is to purchase 5,000 tons of steel, 60 miles of vinyl poles.
In a vast warehouse outside Manhattan, they assembled a mountain of materials needed to build the gates. 22,500 poles, 165,000 bolts, 7,500 panels of fabric. It's art on an industrial scale with an industrial-sized price tag, $20 million.
$20 million of our money.
Every penny of it coming out of Christo and Jeanne-Claude's pocket. Not a nickel is accepted from taxpayers, donors, or corporate sponsors.
We gotta push this through, actually.
Last week, armies of paid workers spread out around the park, anchoring the gates to 600-pound steel plates. The sheer weight makes the gates untippable and unstealable. When the drapes came tumbling down, New York's Village Green was transformed, from the Upper East Side clear up to Harlem. And something else happened too. Those jaded New Yorkers who thought they'd seen it all were giddy with what Christo and Jeanne-Claude had done to their backyard.
There will be never gates anywhere in the world. This is only gates in Central Park.
They go away, but they will remain as once upon a time.
In memory.
Yes.
Yes.